Swinging a high drive into center field. Hits at the wall. It is gone! Casas does it again. It's gone! It's into the bullpen! This game is tied! This game is tied!
He swings and rips one to center field. It's high, it's deep, it's back, it's gone! Sale winds, he fires. Swing and a miss, strike three, it's over! The Red Sox have won the World Championship!
Hey-o, welcome back to Play Tessie. It's episode 100. That's right, it's episode 100. This is the official Red Sox podcast of WEI. Here with Sammy and Pat. Before we get going, remember, rate, subscribe, 5 stars, subscribe wherever you get your podcast, wherever you're listening. So hit the subscribe button. Check us out on YouTube. We're on the WEI YouTube page. You can you can find the Play Tessie playlist within the YouTube page. You can hit the thumbs up on those videos. We really appreciate it. And find us at Play Tessie on both Twitter and Instagram. Here with Sammy and Pat. Have you guys ever had like a birthday and like on your birthday something really like bad happens and it's just like ruins your whole day, and it's like you want to get past it because it's your birthday, but like you just really can't because that really annoying thing happened?
My 21st birthday, I went out for a dinner at Top of the Hub. Before the dinner came out was when Alex Cora got his year suspension.
Oh yeah.
So yeah.
Yeah, that's how this feels to me. Like, we've been gearing up for episode 100, and we asked listeners on the socials to send us DMs. We want to get you guys involved in our 100th episode. It's been just such an awesome run with you guys as co-hosts, and just like we've had such a blast doing this, and you know, we really appreciate the people who do tune in and listen to what we have to say. It's not lost on us that, you know, we have this really great platform to talk about something that we're all so passionate about. And you guys really came through and sent us a bunch of stuff, and we're going to get to as much of it as we can. But it would have been a lot better to do this for the 100th episode, coming off at least a win. Like at least the Sunday Sox get us a win. But the Red Sox get swept by the Dodgers in a 3-game series coming out of the All-Star break. They had all the momentum in the world going into the All-Star break and come out with it in a 3-game sweep. It's only their second 3-game sweep of the season. Their only other time, and it literally, like, you can barely remember it because it's just so long ago, it was April 9 through 11 in Baltimore. And our mindsets at the time were just like, oh, this might be a lost season anyway. So how upset can you really be after a sweep there? They also got swept in a 2-gamer in Atlanta, but like, it's a 2-gamer, so how much do you really want to count that? But this one obviously hits hard. These games matter so much going into the trade deadline. As you approach the final couple of weeks, teams make their decisions as to whether they're going to buy or sell. And right when it started to feel like it was an absolute certainty that the Red Sox would be buyers, and I still think that they, at this stage, are definitely buyers if the deadline were happening now. But it does creep a little bit of doubt in your mind. You got about a week and a half to go. Not even a week and a half to go. It's really just a week to go. The deadline's a week from Tuesday, so a week from tomorrow if you're listening on drop day. So obviously, like, the Red Sox will not be under 500 at the deadline, but the doubt can certainly creep in. And as we've seen the last couple of off seasons, when that doubt creeps in, if it creeps into the front office, that's when they don't do anything, and then that's when your season gets killed. So yeah, I don't know if I'm overreacting, but that was a pretty demoralizing sweep in my book.
Yeah, I mean, couldn't have come at a worse time. They were hot, like you said, ice cold now. The one good thing I'll say is that they did fight. It wasn't like they just laid down and died in those games. They did fight back, but just you see the deficiencies in the team. They still struggle against left-handed pitching. You're not going to get 2 home runs from Tyler O'Neill most nights when you're facing a lefty. The bullpen now is an issue. You're down 1 million guys. You're not going to have Kenley for the Colorado series. We'll get to that later. But Martin, Slayton out. Bernardino's been used a lot. Kelly's been used a lot. Still don't have Hendricks back, so the bullpen's not looking good. Just so many issues. And then that's without even touching on the starting rotation, which if you don't fix that down the stretch, it all comes crumbling down. So really, really, really got to this series coming up in Colorado is massive. And I didn't want to be saying that coming off of this Dodgers series. I wanted to say it was an important series, but it's now huge, like the Rocky Mountains.
Yeah, I mean, for me, this just further highlighted, quantified the deficits that we've been seeing all season. I just did the math out. The Sox faced a lefty in 17 1/3 innings. They only scored 8 runs and they struck out 23 times. And you weren't facing good lefties. You were facing James Paxton, Anthony Banda. Like, you weren't, these aren't your Max Frieds, your whatever. That's really ugly. And then on the flip side of the coin, so there's your right-handed bat that you need, obviously. Sox starters this series, which is crazy considering Nick Pivetta went 6 shutout, 17 innings, 9 earned runs. You can't do that. And that's with Nick Pivetta. So excluding Nick Pivetta, 11 innings and 9 earned runs.
A lot of that was Kutter. Bayo wasn't. How many did Bayo go? 6? Did he
6, 3 earned.
Quality start. I mean, it's really just a Kutter thing, but that's the issue is you're not going to get a great start every single time out from your start. And obviously no team wins every game, but I think maybe part of the reason why I'm a little bit extra down after this series is just because it kind of opened up a new deficiency in my head because, to me, the bullpen has been such a strength this season from start until the midway point. And then right before the All-Star break, in like the week and a half before the All-Star break, Chris Martin and Justin Slayton both go down. And you don't think too much of it. But then right before the All-Star break, like 2 days before, you get the report that Martin's going to be out a little bit longer than they thought. And they said Justin Slayton would be out just the minimum, but that would bring him back, I believe, during the second game of the Rockies series. And we haven't heard a word about that. So at this point, I would be surprised if he's back at the minimum. I wish that we had a clear timetable there, but you saw it in the series. They could not bridge the gap to Jansen, and when they did bridge the gap to Jansen, he showed that he is not perfect, which obviously we don't expect him to be perfect, but you want him to lock those games down, those one-run saves. You obviously don't want him letting up a home run to Kike Hernandez and seeing Kike Hernandez come through and tie the game twice. Oh God. I don't even want to talk about it. Like that game on Saturday made me so mad.
And Gordo, to make things worse about the bullpen issues, you mentioned Slayton. We haven't heard anything about him. I just spoke about all the guys who are hurt. There's also nobody in AAA that you can use at the major league level. Like there's no upper minors help at all. They had to go get Trey Wingenter. I can't even remember the guy's name. And he's in AAA. That's a Tigers released him or whatever. They gave him away for a single A pitch. Like, just the point is the depth in the upper minors is awful. There's no help coming. So you either got to wait, pray that your guys get healthy, or make a move. And I really don't know what the right choice is there.
And it's so hard to make a move early. Like everyone keeps saying, just make a move now, make a move now. It takes 2 to tango, and no one wants to sell right now. Everyone is on the border. So it's extra hard to make an early move this year.
Gordo, I agree, but I think the one thing that you have a decent chance at getting early is relief pitching help. I think that's the one realm that maybe you could, make something happen. But starting pitcher, good luck until you're like a few days out of the deadline.
Yeah, I think there's definitely, because relievers every deadline, does not matter how many buyers, sellers there are. That's just one thing that's going to be plentiful every single year. So the chances of a price getting really high on a 6th, 7th inning guy, slim to none. Like you can go get a Yimi Garcia right now for what you'll pay for 10 days from now. On the other side of the coin, when people are like, why do we just keep sitting here with no right-handed bat, no starting pitching? Teams aren't stupid. Executives aren't stupid. The closer it gets to that timeline, that definitive deadline, teams are going to bid and bid and bid and bid, and the price goes up and up and up and up. So unless you are willing and planning to blow a team out of the water over a week out, it's not happening. You're not getting either of those two things until the deadline.
That's the thing. It really is so much about hanging on, not just hanging on in general, but hanging on to where you're at. Because the break, they were 2 games up on a playoff spot. And now, here we are 1 podcast later. They're not even in a playoff spot. They're down a game. And I know it's only about a week until the deadline, but if they like fall to 3 games out, like all these teams that we think are going to be sellers in the National League that we keep talking about as selling, they're all right now like 3 games out. So you would be asking the Red Sox to be legitimate buyers, and not just legitimate buyers, but buyers for 3 different deficiencies: the right-hand bat, the starting pitcher, the relief pitcher. You'd be asking them to do all of that in a position where you're asking other teams to sell. It'd be such a hard, and I know Breslow wants to pick a lane, and I don't foresee a circumstance where they go full on fire sale, but can you realistically see him adding all 3 of those, or even 2 of the 3 of those, if they are like 2.5, 3 games out?
I could see him adding a relief pitcher and then one of the 2 right-handed bat or starting pitcher. If they're 3 games out, I don't think you're getting all 3. And if you do get those upgrades, I don't think they're going to be as sexy as people want them to be. Like just the tone of people on on social media and in the radio, on TV, everyone's expecting kind of a lot, which I've always thought was a little bit foolish. Not completely, you never know, but I've always thought that the ad is going to be fairly modest, and now that I feel even more so that it's going to be modest, if not a little underwhelming. I'm not talking about Luis Urias, but I mean kind of like Andrew Kashner, like a depth starter, a true depth starter, something like that, or Steve Pearce if he doesn't go on to be World Series MVP, if he plays like he played for the majority of his career, where he's a platoon bat, does a little bit of this, a little bit of that, nothing crazy. So I just would caution people getting their expectations up in terms of what these returns are, if they do come at all.
Yeah, and I think the other thing too is people need to understand there's nothing at those spots right now. You do not have a rostered 5th starter, and you do not have even a average right-handed bat aside from Tyler O'Neill, who can hit lefties. So any ad there is an upgrade. And I think that's where the biggest disconnect is, because I think people are pissed that they're not touching on Crochet and they're not talking to Pete Alonso. You don't need those. You need a right-handed bat and a healthy pitcher who can give you 5 to 6 innings and give up legit 3 to 4 runs, because that's an upgrade on what you have right now.
You know what they might do? If the team continues to be kind of 500 or a little below until the deadline, they might give us the Vaughn Grissom is the right-handed bat line, because he started his rehab. He's in AAA right now. So I could see that happening. If they sweep the Rockies and then win 2 out of 3 against the Yankees, okay, different story. But let's say they win 2 out of 3 against the Rockies, win 1 out of 3 against the Yankees. They go 3-3 in that stretch. You might get the Vaughn Grissom is our right-handed bat line, and not ideal.
So, fellas, we're gonna get to continue this discussion, but it's gonna come in the form of responding to some DMs that we got. We had listeners who we really appreciate you guys listening and interacting with the socials, and it just means a lot to us, and we're really happy to get you guys involved in. And a lot of the questions and a lot of the comments that we have will allow us to continue this, but let's start it out. We got first one from Sean, and he wanted us to discuss the potential fit of Lane Thomas and other alternatives for a right-handed hitter. So specifically starting with Lane Thomas, I'll give my take here. He'd be good. He'd be a good fit. He'd be what they need. He'd hit left-handed hitters. The only issue is that he plays the outfield and it's not an infielder. And I definitely think the preference would be to have a versatile infielder. That's why my preference has always been Rengifo. But to be honest with you, the priority has to be getting a right-handed bat that can hit lefties at an appropriate cost. So I like Lane Thomas, but hopefully there's going to be right-handed bats available. I mean, Ty France just got DFA'd or placed on whatever waivers. I don't even get the difference of it. What even do you know?
Waivers everyone gets a shot to trade for you in the order of worst record to best record, and if you
that's
don't,
DFA too.
the trade doesn't go. It doesn't DFA come with a different stipulation in terms of like, oh my god, I don't know.
I think it might be the same thing.
Waivers is what I just described.
There's the post deadline waivers that's now not a thing anymore. That's what you described. Was weird.
Yeah, that's just waivers in sports. I don't know, dude. It's so baseball's so confusing with this crap. Ty France is available.
Ty France is available.
Yeah.
Lane Thomas is up for trade, and he's a good hitter. He still has a mid-900s OPS against lefties. To me, if you can hit with an 800 OPS against lefties, I will consider you, regardless of position. My preference would be that you play the infield, but hey, I'm not going to be picky.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think Lane in a vacuum fits pretty well. Right-handed bat. I have his numbers up right now. 3 home runs, 13 RBI, hitting 337 with a 947 OPS against lefties. So the numbers are there, and that's a guy that you can kind of plug and play between him and Massa. So going up against a lefty, Massa's out, Lane is in at DH, and then you just kind of have a smorgasbord of who's playing every day in the outfield, which is fine. But that's a bat that, in my eyes, fits pretty well. But again, like you, Gordo, any right-handed bat fits good.
Yeah, it's interesting. The only thing now that, like, just because you have to fit it into the equation with these deadline ads, so much of it was being under the assumption that Tristan Casas was going to be playing first base every day after the deadline. It sounds more and more like he's not going to be back till September every day. So now at this point, you have to be considering platoons not just for Massa but also for Dom, and you're not going to be able to roster platoons for both. So in a perfect world, I guess your guy plays either infield or first base. But again, yeah, we're not really in a position to be picky. Next one comes from 5-star Alpha Snake. He wants to know, he or she wants to know, who is the best GM that got passed up for the Red Sox GM position? I got news for you. I feel like it was all the good GMs passing up the Red Sox. Who did the Red Sox pass up?
Wait, what was the question? Can you the wording of that?
It said, who is the best GM that got passed up for the Red Sox GM position?
I'm assuming they mean who...
No, it's him. It's him. Is this Alpha Snake?
Yeah.
This dude would tweet at me every single day in the offseason saying that he was going to be the GM, and he would he had all these crazy ideas, and I would be like, you sound crazy, man. I think you'd be a good GM. And literally every day, this guy, I think it's a joke, but he would hit me up every day and be like, I have like a suit and it's like purple. I'm going to wear it and I'll be the GM. It's not like crazy stuff. Maybe not that, but like, this guy's really funny. I know who this is. I thought the name sounded familiar.
That's great.
Him.
To answer the question, I'll say Neil Huntington. I think that's the best GM that they passed up. That they passed up, not that passed them up.
Big Neil.
Yeah, I'll probably say Gabe Kapler.
Wait, I got to tell you guys. So my buddy is trying to work in baseball, and he just got an email. So he's worked for a couple teams, but he's working with Harvard now, and he got an email just out of the blue from Gabe Kapler, and it's like, hey man, want to chat about working in baseball or something? And my buddy's like, there's no way this is real. This is definitely spam. And he had the phone number. I looked up the number, it was Gabe Kapler's phone number, and I was like, no, you got to go for it. If even if it's not him, if it's spam, whatever. Ended up responding is how'd you get my email? Kapler goes, just a good old fashioned Google search. So Gabe Kapler is just Googling phone numbers. They ended up having a phone conversation. It was him.
So that checks out. That checks out. I feel like Gabe is chronically online.
Yeah. So that's what Gabe Kapler's up to. Next one comes from Back to Folk. It's a long tweet, but basically says that with Slayton and Martin having elbow injuries, the grocery list for the deadline only gets bigger, and their downfall could happen by not filling one or multiple of those holes. Do we think they will make enough moves to address all three needs?
Oh, all right. I can't give you an answer to that. I need to see what happens with the Colorado and the Yankees series. There's 6 more games that I gotta analyze. I guess right now I think they'll get a starting pitcher, which to me also addresses the bullpen because that bumps people into the bullpen. So I guess you could say that's 2 out of the 3 needs. And then I would be shocked if they didn't add some sort of right-handed bat, even if it is kind of like Ty France, someone who's not going to blow you away, but it's still a right-handed bat that hits lefties better than what you got. So I'll say yes, but that's not a very confident yes.
Yeah, I think in terms of likelihood, what they add, I would say reliever is 1. If any team wants a reliever, they get one at the deadline. Even if they're not great, you get one. It's a body. I think that's likely. I think any form of starting pitcher is second most likely. And then I think the right-handed bat, which sucks because it's such a big need, but I think just based on how the competition is going to be at the deadline, I think that's going to be the hardest one to add.
I'm right there with you, Pat. That's exactly what I think. I think there's no world. I shouldn't say there's no world, but there is really unlikely to me that the Red Sox are going to just all out sell. And Craig Breslow has said he's going to pick a lane. I know everyone's very afraid of the whole middle ground thing or whatever because we've seen it the last couple of years and it didn't get them to the playoffs. Breslow's not going to do that. He's said literally every chance he's gotten that he's not going to do that. So he's going to add. I think the first priority is a starting pitcher. It should be, and I believe that it is. And as you said, Pat, like go back to 2021, they added Austin Davis and Hansel Robles, and like neither of those guys were dudes that were really all that exciting at the time of the acquisition, but both of them helped down the stretch, especially Robles. Yes, you can get a reliever that is a name. Like the Royals just got Hunter Harvey, and like that's a name, and that's a guy that other teams wanted and whatnot. But you could also get a guy that no one knows about, and you just like. The Yankees traded for. I know he sucks now, but the Yankees traded for Clay Holmes back in 2021, and that dude was absolutely nails down the stretch, and really helped get them to the playoffs that year. So you just got to find an arm that you like, an arm that you think can at least bridge you to September, when maybe you'll have a couple of these setup guys back. Who the hell knows their timetables? But yeah, the right-handed bat I think is the least likely to be added. But in the end, like you can make additions. Like Jordan Lyles got waived today. I know we used to talk about Jordan Lyles on the last iteration of this show, but like you could add
Gordo,
if
you like Chase Anderson, just wait until you see Jordan Lyles.
I know
he is discount Chase Anderson, which is amazing.
But I'm just saying, in theory, they could add Jordan Lyles and Ty France and get some bum reliever, and they have technically added to those spots without giving anything. So I'm just saying,
so
I think
depressing.
that's probably the lowest. That's probably your worst case scenario is they do stuff like that. But I think they'll do more.
I should tweet that. I'm going to tweet that. How would you feel if the Red Sox additions were true? All right, I'm going to do it right now and see what people say. I'm not saying you're advocating for it.
No, yeah. No, I'm saying it's the worst case scenario, which is honestly better than a lot of worst case scenarios could be. Like we could be talking about them shipping every rental they have out. All right, I'll give you guys the next question. This one comes. You go ahead, Pat.
Yeah, no. I was going to say, if there is one thing that Jordan Lyles does, it's fucking eating innings. Holy shit, dude. Last year, 6 in 17 with a 6.28 ERA. Guy threw 177 innings. Year before, 180 with 4.4.
He does eat the innings.
Is starving for innings. That's all he does is eat innings.
Dude's the Cookie Monster for innings.
He is famished
at all times. All right, next one comes from Samuel. He wants to know, could Luis Guerrero be a good plug for the Sox while they get healthy? And no control is an issue, but he has great stuff and good potential. He also made a comment that he thought the last couple games were an Alex Cora disaster class. I don't know about that, but Luis Guerrero, I got to pull up the numbers for Luis Guerrero. I know he has not been as good this year as he has in previous years. Like there has not been any talk that I've heard of him potentially being added to the 40 or getting called up. I don't know if you guys have heard anything different than me, but
yeah, I'm looking at him right now. It's
a 3.75 ERA in AAA this year. 3.75 in 36 innings.
Yeah, he's fine. He might be a reliever someday, but you need a better contingency plan than that. Regardless, even if he is pitching better now, he's a hot streak, whatever. You still need a better contingency plan than that if you're gonna try to make a run at the playoffs. So I would say he's not an option. I feel like that's just I get the concept, but nah.
The 40-man spots are valuable, especially with how many Rule 5 guys they have coming. Like, there's a lot of guys who could be on the back end of the 40. In clearing up a 40-man spot for a guy like Luis Guerrero, I don't know. I think you got to be pretty damn confident that he's going to be something, and I don't think he's there yet.
I agree. I don't think he's an option for that reason. You got to be dominating AAA to have hope at the big league level. If they're going to go from within, I just think if at least bullpen wise, if you're going to go from within, I think you just got to go with taking some of your own and throwing them in the bullpen. Like if you wanted to use Criswell in the bullpen, if you wanted to use Richard Fitz in the bullpen, and that would be more of like an end of season thing when you're trying to limit his innings and like he's done. But yeah, I don't see Luis Guerrero as an option this year. This one comes from Nick. Nick says, out of the core four, which one would you be most open to moving in for what player, and who would you be most against trading? Sammy, I'll start with you on this one. The core four for him is the big three: Meyer, Teal, Anthony, and he includes Christian Campbell as the fourth in the core four.
Christian Campbell, not Montgomery.
Yeah, Christian Campbell.
Oh, I thought that he was going to go with Montgomery. Christian Campbell easily the one that I would trade, just because I think he's a good prospect. I don't think you can have a big four. I don't think he's on the same level as those other three guys, and that's nothing against him. Those other three are just premier prospects. But if it's just the big three, we'll go with the big three for the spirit of the question. I think my answer would be Roman Anthony, and that's only because the Red Sox have ample outfield bodies right now. They have a lot of talented outfielders, so they'd be trading from a surplus. Yes, Roman Anthony might be the best of the bunch, but that doesn't change the fact that they still have guys like Duran, Abreu, O'Neill is still under contract this year, Yoshida, I could go on and on, Rafaela. So in the spirit of the question, I'll go Roman Anthony.
Who would you least want to trade? Meyer or Teal? Who do you want to least want to trade to?
Probably Meyer, because I think he has the higher ceiling. I think getting a catcher is super valuable. I'm just not 100% sold on Teal's defense yet. So, Meyer, but it's close.
Pat, where are you at?
Yeah, I think if we're doing the big four thing, I think personally, Campbell's by far the most expandable. And like Sammy said, he's a great prospect. He is on the come up. He's going to be on the top 100 come season end or whenever they next update it with the prospects for the draft. But he's not near the big three. And again, going to Sammy, if I were have to pick one of the big three to trade, it would be Roman. And I think Roman has the best profile to be a big league bat. Very disciplined hitter, power all over the place. Like, I think he has the chance to be the best of the three. But like Sammy said, you just have so much outfield depth. And if you trade him, hypothetically, I don't want to trade him. But you also have Campbell. You have Montgomery. Plus everything you have at the majors right now. Like, you have to, if you're moving one, it has to be from depth. So for me, I would go Roman. Of the four, Campbell.
And who are you not trading?
I think it's Marcelo. I am so confident in Marcelo being so incredibly untouchable. He has everything you want from a major league shortstop. He hits for extra base hits. He hits for power. He hits for average. He's a big body at short. He's a good defender. He's everything and anything you could want in a franchise shortstop.
To me, I'm not trading the big three under almost any circumstances. Yep. Like, I'm not even really that enticed trading them for like Garrett Crochet or Tarek Skubal. And obviously, like, it sounds insane coming out of my mouth, but I'm just in terms of putting the core in place and having everything. I want everything in place, locked and loaded for now and the future before I make a trade like that. As much as I want to see them in the mix for names like that, I just don't. Even with how good they've been this year, I just don't think it's the right time. So if I'm going to trade one, it's going to be Christian Campbell, because to me, he's not untouchable. I think the other three to me are as close to untouchable as they can be. And if I had to pick one to be the most untouchable, I would be right there with you guys. It's Marcelo Meyer. He's been the savior for all this time, and I'm seeing that through. Pat?
I don't want to. This is by no means like a harp on Christian Campbell. I think he's a great prospect. He's done nothing but hit in the minors. Doesn't it kind of feel like Nick York 2 years ago? Like, just on fire offensively. He was a top 100 guy.
Could be.
It was Heim's first round pick, and he hit the ground running. He was great. And then the air kind of left the balloon, and he kind of met his level as like maybe a fringe left fielder, second baseman, whatever. So until Christian Campbell does this for the course of a full minor league season and then into AAA, you have to think of him as just a prospect with a lot of really good stock. And do you capitalize on that? Maybe you do.
I'll give you the one difference though, Pat. Is that Nick York, when he was on fire, he was doing that in single A.
Yeah.
Campbell got promoted and he kept it up in double A. So I agree. It does feel a little bit like, oh my God, this guy came on the scene and now he's getting all this recognition. And it's like, How much can we buy in? But
You guys seen his swing?
it's
It's a little weird.
Raffy like.
Yeah, it's a little hitch in it.
Yeah.
See, in terms of just like how much is going on in it. Not that he looks like Raffy, but like Raffy was he's violent. His swing is violent now, but his swing in the minors, especially back then, it was all over the place.
Kind of looks like Hunter Pence to me. A little Hunter Pence-ish.
Yes, in terms of the comp.
Yeah.
I want to get to this next question because this is actually an interesting one. It might actually be the answer if the Red Sox like lose 4 out of their next 6 or even 3 out of their next 6 or whatever, and they don't want to buy or whatever. He says, "What do you think of the Red Sox calling Rich Hill?" And that's an interesting one because Rich Hill does want to come back. He's maintained that even recently. We talked to Bradfo and everything. He wants to come back.
We talked to him.
Exactly. Yeah. We talked to him in the offseason, and he has maintained into the season that he would like to pitch down the stretch. I would be in favor of it. He's obviously a left-hander. I don't know how much that matters. It's more so that he can eat innings. He can go 5+. This is a guy whose arm is made of rubber. He's gonna hopefully, for the most part, keep you in games. Obviously, we haven't seen him pitch this year, so who the hell knows? But like, if they're 3.5, 4 games out of a playoff spot come the deadline, and it's like we really don't want to sell, but we also can't be trading like a Christian Campbell right now when we're 4 games out. Yeah, I'd call Rich Hill. I actually don't hate that idea. Even if they do get a starter, I would call Rich Hill. He lives here.
I mean, I'd be in favor of it for the content. We'd get so much good content with him. So, yeah, let's do it.
Love Rich Hill. Friend of the program. Journeyman.
Oh, no.
Had a lot of great years.
You're about to say
I
something
think
bad.
He is your break glass in case of emergency. Like if the prices on rentals are so incredibly high at the deadline,
Which
so
I think
much
they
so
will
that
be.
you can't even get like a Yusei Kikuchi who has a 4.5 ERA this year. Yeah, like you need innings in some way, shape, or form. So if that comes in the form of Rich Hill, if everything else fails, sure, fine. Am I calling him today? Getting him on the roster tomorrow? No. I think a lot of options have to be exhausted before you call Rich Hill.
Well,
Can you imagine the reaction?
Here's my next question, Pat. It's funny you say that. Would you, if Rich Hill has been throwing and he's built up, would you start him tomorrow over Cooper Criswell?
No.
Actually, wait, Tanner. Well, actually, if you're listening, it's tomorrow. So yeah, it stands. That's the interesting. I would piggyback them off of each other. That's what I would do. It'd be an interesting, like one goes 3, one goes 4, and you see where it goes. I can see it.
Just can't imagine the reaction. If
It
Rich
would
Hill,
be funny.
it would be hilarious. I
it
feel
would
like
be
people would be borderline rooting for him to fail because people would be so
pandemonium.
angry. They'd be like, "This guy stinks! I told you, he's 44. I told you he stinks." Ugh.
I'm rooting for Rich Hill. I would do it. Even if, yeah, I'm sure he wants to start. And there's going to be opportunities for him, but come back to Boston. Dude's the pride of Milton. Next one comes from my man Dan. Goes, boys, do you think that how the Sox play out the deadline will have a major impact on Cora's decision to stay or leave?
Hell yeah. Huge yes. Easy yes. If the Red Sox go into the deadline and have another Luis Urias like move and that's it, I see ya, Cora. He's gone. Why would he want to stay here? That is the worst message from ownership. I would be like 3rd year in a row too. I would be so sick of it. So I would honestly, obviously I don't want Cora to leave, but if they do nothing at the deadline, I'd kind of give him in my head like a get out of here, man. You deserve better than this. This is unreal. So no, yeah, he's gone if they don't add.
Yeah, I think from his eyes, I would imagine that having a roster overachieve the past like 3 years, and so much so that there is a conversation whether you should buy or whether you should sell, and he just gets nothing. He has never hit pay dirt at the deadline by having his roster overachieve and getting the best out of his players. If they don't do anything, or worse, they sell, I think they could offer him $10 million a year and he will not come back.
Oh, because that's where I disagree.
Why would he?
because he lives here, his family's here, his daughter goes to school here, and if they're offering him $10 million a year, then the money's here, and the
But
future
they're not going
is
to offer
here.
him $10
They've
million.
got- Of course, yes.
They're
But
not.
that's my answer here to this question is will how the deadline plays out have an impact? Yes. But guess what? If the Sox offer him the Craig Counsell's 5 years, 40 mil, he's going to stay. And honestly, like, I know he likes this group, and I know that he does. It's not lost on him what is coming to be added to this group organically from the farm within. It's a good future. I know it's not lost on him. If they offer him money, he's going to stay.
Gordo, do you think the Cubs, Gordo and Pat, both of you, do you think the Cubs being very meh with Craig Counsell after getting this huge contract, do you think that's going to keep teams from doing that in the future? Because he was the first and only guy to make money like that. So
I talked about this with Bradfo on the radio like maybe 2 or 3 weeks ago, and we were both kind of in agreement that, yeah, it's got to give you some pause because it was such an unprecedented move to make such an addition, and it very clearly hasn't elevated them.
So are we rooting against the Cubs?
A little bit, yeah.
Yeah, I think
so weird.
I don't know.
And it's not it's not that I don't want Alex Cora to get paid. It's just that I want the Red Sox to be the only team that's offering it.
Yeah, Cora's got plenty of dough. He was a player for 1,000 years.
Would you guys agree that in our lifetime, the two biggest managerial hirings in terms of like big names would be Counsell of the Cubs for all that money, and then probably Joe Madden to the Angels, right? I feel like those two are probably the biggest two.
What about Joe Madden to the Cubs? Joe Madden twice.
Yeah. But when Joe went to the Angels, that didn't work either.
Wow,
That's
dude,
true.
no love for Gabe Kapler.
Oh, yeah. Or Brad Ausmus. How could I forget?
What
I don't
about,
know.
like,
These are tough questions. Like biggest managerial hire.
Yeah,
like
I mean,
who's a manager with a name? I guess
what
Madden.
about Terry Francona? Like, it wasn't like a huge hire at the time,
Tito,
like
yeah.
a big splash, but like Tito clearly elevated that team.
Yeah, maybe
But it's
which
Tito.
to the Astros?
To the Red Sox? I thought you were going to say Tito to the Guardians or
Yeah, that's
Indians
what
at the time.
That's what I
Oh, that's what you meant? Okay, cool.
Yeah.
Yeah, that was big because he was such a big name with the Red Sox, and the way that he left was so unceremonious. So yeah, I could see that. I kind of agree with you there.
All right, I'm going to read this next one. This comes from Chris. And I don't know if there's a question in this, but if there is, we'll find out. It says, how do I feel about this team going into game 100? Decently. This team, considering just getting swept by the Dodgers, is still multiple games over 500. I feel like this team can still make a good run if we get back in the good baseball that we have played for the majority of the year and get some weapons at the deadline. I feel like they can get us some better infielders and a pitcher that can eat innings at the deadline. This team can compete and still play for the playoffs. I feel that time will tell if ownership truly cares about this team. If they are in a winning position and they get no help, then ownership truly just doesn't care. I hope this team can get it together, and I hope that ownership can get this shit together. Yeah, I mean, I really do hope that the Red Sox win. Obviously, like, God, I always hope that they win all of their games the next week. But I really hope that the Red Sox put themselves in such an obvious position where you have to add, because obviously if they don't, then just it would further expose what the true problem has been over the last half decade or so. It's ownership.
Dude, we are about to be sweating this Rockies series out with all this on the line, everything we've talked about today. How much of this is hinging on beating the Rockies at home?
Yeah, I think take this Dodgers series at face value, right? You're not as good as the Dodgers. On paper, on the field, they're not. That being said, they should have won yesterday. That's a fact.
Yeah.
So I think if we had won the middle game and you walk out, you take 1 of 3, you still don't feel great, but you at least have something to go off of going into Colorado. So I'm not going to let these 3 games kind of dictate my point of view on the deadline. That being said, the games that you should win now carry more weight because you have to win them.
Yeah. And it really does put like an additional magnifying glass. Because like if you'd ask me what do the Red Sox need to do against the Dodgers and the Rockies, I would have said just come away with half of them. Take 2 or 3 from Colorado, take 1 or 3 from the Dodgers, tread water. That's the bare minimum. Now you've lost the 3, you got to take all three in Colorado to do what I would have at the time said you got to do. And we'll get into a quick preview after we're done with DMs, but I'll tell you guys, I know it's Colorado. I know it's the Rockies. I know they stink. I don't think this series is as much of a slam dunk as you would think. I think it's going to be a lot harder than you would think. And it goes beyond just the fact that they're not going to have any high leverage bullpen arms with them in the series.
Yeah, they're down a man. Whoop. Can't wait to dive into that one.
Yeah, we got a few more, and then we'll get into them. Owen asks, do you guys feel this team will be like last year's team and stumble in the second half?
Honestly, yeah. I was saying that at the All-Star break. There's so many, like, I really like how exciting they are, and I had a great time in the first half, but right when the first half ended, I kind of started digging into the numbers, and a lot of the stuff the Red Sox were doing seems a little unsustainable if they don't make additions. Like, I think that Houck is probably going to regress a little. There's no way he's going to have a 2.54 ERA all year long. Like, pretty much nobody does that. I think Kutter is going to get a little tired down the stretch. We saw hints of that already before he had his his savior rain out. I think the bullpen injuries are adding up. That's not good. And I really think this left-handed pitching, or the inability to hit left-handed pitching, is a huge issue. And the last thing is way too many strikeouts. So all those things, I think it was 4 things I mentioned. I was kind of, I'm not sharing this with the world how I feel while everyone's having a great time watching the Red Sox succeed, but I just, and oh my God, I forgot to mention the elephant in the room. They have the most difficult remaining schedule of any team in Major League Baseball. So I think there's a lot more things working against the Red Sox than people realize, and I really hope that the Red Sox notice that. There's no way that if I noticed that they wouldn't. So they definitely know this, and I hope they address it, because it's getting a little scary.
You said the thing that I think kind of scares me the most is the strength of schedule. But to me, so much of like this question is really difficult to answer today, because he's asking about last year's team, and last year's team struggled down the stretch in large part because they didn't get the pitching they needed at the deadline, and their pitching was basically hanging on by a thread at the deadline. And had you put some reinforcements around it, maybe you could have climbed that rope, but you didn't. So the thread just snapped, and they lost a shit ton of games in September, and it felt as if they were never in the season when you looked at it at the end, but they were in it. It's just that they didn't get what they needed. So I really do think my answer depends on what they do in the second half, or sorry, what they do at the deadline.
Yeah. I don't know. I can see them coming back down to earth and maybe struggling a little bit. There's definitely more pieces on this roster than there were in years prior, especially with Duran playing like he is. Devers, the rotation has been good, but there is some inevitability there. Like, Tanner's going to likely regress. Cutter's going to get fatigued. The bullpen is going to feel the wear and tear, especially with Martin and Slayton out.
And that's why it's about the deadline.
Yeah. So I think if you can supplement those things and kind of forecast, plan ahead, and get ahead of it, they'll be okay. Sammy, another thing that you didn't mention, they were incredibly lucky. July, they had a 355 BABIP. That's not going to keep up. There's no way. So there's going to be some natural regression, water finding its level, but you have to supplement it. You have to forecast. You have to plan for the unexpected. Do it.
It's also hard to maintain a BABIP like that when you strike out a lot, which to me might be the number one issue, because like you said, it's not that it's hard for me to say they got lucky. BABIP is weird. Batting average on balls in play, if you're not familiar. It's a weird stat because you could frame it kind of any way you want. So I could just counter and say, well, I think that BABIP is earned because they hit the ball hard and they run well. And you could say, well, they've also gotten a lot of luck. High BABIP means that you're getting luck. We're probably both right in a way. But regardless, it's hard to maintain a high BABIP or any offensive output when you're striking out a lot. And the Red Sox have been striking out quite a bit. The guys in the middle of the order are good bats, but they have a K deficiency. So I think that when looking at this right-handed bat that the Red Sox are going to add, it's got to be a guy who doesn't strike out. And that's part of the reason why we've been talking about Rengifo so much. He doesn't strike out. You could put him you could have him lead off against left-handed pitching. So you have Rengifo gets on base, and then you have Duran. I kind of like Duran in the 2-hole against lefties. It's growing on me a bit. So long way of saying I think there are more issues than people realize. And that's not to say this isn't a good team. I think this is a good team, but they have issues and they need to be addressed.
Yeah, and it's not for nothing. Like we talk about the strength of schedule and stuff, and you talk about the strikeouts and a lot of those coming against left-handed pitching. The book is very much out on the Red Sox. You can see the way teams attack them every single night. It's hopefully you start with a lefty, but even if you don't, you just have your right-handed starter give what he can, and then just deploy your lefty relievers, every single one you have, and hope that they can eat every inning you need until you get to your closer. But
yeah.
Dude, okay.
The Dodgers' entire fucking bullpen was left-handed. What the hell was that? Everyone they brought out of the bullpen was left-handed. That was a nightmare.
Yeah, they kept using the same guys over and over again because it's like, why even bother like using like Blake Trinan, who lived with my buddy for like a year when we were in like high school. So yeah, I love Blake Trinan, but they only used him like one time. They're using like Anthony Banda like every day because he's a lefty. It's just we're gonna keep going to Ryan Yarbrough. Like it doesn't matter.
I hate that guy. I can't stand watching that guy pitch. It's so because I'm watching. I'm like, how is he doing this? I could hit this guy. He's throwing 69 miles an hour and nobody can hit him.
Nice.
I can't. Fuck. Thank you. Obviously, I couldn't actually hit him, but like it's just frustrating to watch. Very. Ugh.
All right, we got just a few more. Tommy sent a long one, but I'll summarize. He talked about just a rough series, both from the pen and the offense. He wants to know what is more pressing of a need, a starter or a reliever. He says we need both, but doubts the front office addresses both. To me, I know the more pressing issue, if you just watch the Dodger series, is the bullpen. To me, it's the starter. I think that's the foundation of everything. You have one starting pitcher injury. You have nothing left to replace it. Even if you don't have a starting pitcher injury, you're still relying on guys to eat innings that they've never eaten before in their lives at the major league level, or probably honestly their entire lives. It's relying on a lot of things that have never happened to happen. And you need it to put at least something in place to allow for at least a little bit of room for error. So if one guy falls apart or if one guy gets hurt, then you're just in the situation you're in now. Whereas right now, we don't know if this situation can make it to the end, but if they get hurt, we know it can't make it to the end.
Yeah. There's also the chain reaction there. If you add a starter, you're getting depth from the starter in the game, and you're therefore saving the bullpen. So on days where, maybe Criswell's going 4 innings and you're using 5 innings out of the bullpen, and then the next day someone's going 5 or 6, it just lightens the load on the bullpen if you go and get a starter. Because if that 4 innings turns into 6, that's 2 innings the bullpen saves a day every turn through the rotation. And those innings will add up and add up and add up until you get to the finish line. The starter is just the bigger component of what they need. It's just going to lengthen everything out, lighten everybody's load, better chance to win. It's the starter.
Yeah, I agree with Pat. I like the reasoning. If you get a starter, it's kind of like also getting a reliever. Someone gets bumped. So,
yep.
Yeah, I think that's the biggest need. I don't even think that's controversial, really. It's pretty clear that starting pitcher is the biggest need, followed by right-handed bat or a relief pitcher. So, yeah, got to get a starter.
I think it's their top priority, too. I think that's been pretty well documented. 2 left. Martin just wants to see them, or actually Martin wants to see them sell off their rentals. He says, I can't take another in and out deadline like the last couple of years. So he wants to see them trade all the rentals.
Come on, Martin, have some fight.
Yeah, Martin, I'm not with you there. I know, but all right, this actually kind of leads us into the next question, and then we'll be able to have that discussion. This comes from Jack. It says, question for the pod. What makes this team more worthy of investment than the 2023 team? What makes 2024 better? And here's my answer to this. 2023 was worthy of investment. Last year on July 30th, they were 56-49. If the Red Sox go 3-4 in their next 7 games, they will be right there. So it's not like record-wise they're that much further off. And standings-wise, I think they were actually right in the same spot. At the deadline, I think they were 1 game out last year, and they're 1 game out right now. So what makes this year's team different? I actually don't think it's any different. But last year's team fell apart completely because they didn't get what they needed to compete. They didn't sell and strip the chance away from them. There was still a chance, but was there? because they needed all the pitching help in the world. And then the pitching that they did have, like we were relying on guys last year to do things that we didn't know that they could do. Like last year was James Paxton. Like we were wondering, can James Paxton make it to the finish line? Because he hasn't done that in years. In the end, he couldn't. He didn't. This year, it's different. It's can Houck make it to the end? Can Kutter make it to the end? And it's easy to ignore those issues, but they're going to come back to bite you if you don't get the help you need. If you have 6 starters and like if Criswell can spot start a day, you saw what the extra day of rest did for Kutter in the middle of the season. You can do that once a month with these guys. It goes a long way. Having 5 starters with a legitimate spot 6 starter. If you don't invest, guess what? It's going to happen again, just like it did the last 2 years.
Yeah, you covered everything.
Yeah. Worthy of investment, but got to invest. We really appreciate you guys. We got a lot of really good DMs there. We love interacting with you guys. We love when you guys interact with us on the socials and on our normal accounts as well. We love getting you guys involved too. Always love doing these mailbag ones. These ones are fun, but especially on episode number 100. So we really appreciate you guys participating. We know that this is kind of a longer episode, so we're going to fly really fast through the series preview. If you guys are prepared, just put the freaking, put the jet fuel on and let's go. Rockies 36-64. So they kind of stink, but they did just take 2 or 3 from the Giants and they're 4-6 in their last 10. As I said, this series, even though it's against an easy team, it scares me a little bit. So for the Sox, you got Houck in the first game, Pivetta in the third game, and they've been kind of wishy-washy about the second game, but it sounds like it's either going to be Cooper Criswell or an opener and then Criswell. Sox are facing Austin Gomber, who we saw them face last year. He had like a mid-6s ERA last year, and we thought the Sox were going to kill him, and he just absolutely carved them up. He's a left-hander. He's got a 4.61 ERA. Then the second and third game, they've got 2 of their better arms, Herman Marquez, who has only made 1 start since his return from Tommy John, 4 innings, 3 runs, 3 strikeouts, and 4 walks against the Mets. So that's all he has for the year, but that's probably their best arm, unless he's just totally cooked from Tommy John. So we will see. And then third game, they're facing Cal Quantrill, who has probably been their best pitcher this year, 4.15 ERA, coming off a quality start with 5 Ks against the Giants. So reasonable pitchers going for the Rockies. And then the hitters, they have 4 players with 14-plus homers. Brenton Doyle, Michael Toglia, Ezekiel Tovar, and Ryan McMahon. Ezekiel Tovar has 4 homers in his last 3 games, and he has multiple hits in 5 straight games. Doyle and Toglia both have OPSs over 1,000 in their last 10 games. This is a pretty hot offense right now, and they're playing in Colorado, where the Rockies obviously play half of their games, and they know how to play. The Sox are going to be going to altitude and are going to have to hit and pitch in high altitude. The Red Sox are not going to have Kenley Jansen in this series. He's staying back in, I was about to say staying back in the U.S. He's probably going to just stay at his home in L.A. But he has heart issues he's like basically had a hard time recovering from going to Colorado each of the last few times that he's been. So he is not going to be there. And Chris Martin is obviously not going to be there. And Justin Slayton technically is eligible to come back off the IL during the series, but I would be surprised if he does. I don't anticipate that happening. The Red Sox are going to have to play this series without any of their leverage relievers. So all of that said, we got to be...
And Gordo, not only that, they don't even get to replace Kenley. They're having to 25-man roster, so they're down a man. So not only do they not have their high leverage guys, they have 1 less arm. So this is getting a little sketchy.
Yep. It's about as bad of a circumstance as you can have going into a series against the 36-64 team. Joe, really quick, come deliver us the standings update before we go through our predictions. And I'm going to say it right now. We got to be really quick with these predictions here.
All right. Well, I can just tell you that no one got a point. Pat and I thought they would lose 2 out of 3, and Sammy and Gordo thought they would win 2 out of 3. So the standings are still Sammy at the top with 10, and then the 3 of us tied for second with 6.
All right. I'm going to go first here. Despite all of the things that I said that are going up against the Red Sox, I think that the Red Sox are resilient and they're going to take 2 out of 3. I think they're going to drop the middle game, but I think they're going to find a way to take 2 out of 3.
I am also going 2 out of 3. However, until they beat a lefty, I am not picking them to beat a lefty. I think they drop the first game, lose 4 in a row for the first time in don't know, May maybe, if they even
Yeah.
did it in May.
It was May. It was the Cardinals and the Rays 4 in a row.
Yeah.
I was looking at this.
So I think they drop the first game and then win the next two. They can't hit lefties.
I think the Red Sox win the middle game, and that's it. I don't like these matchups. I think that Gomber,
I know. I hate that.
He's a soft tossing lefty. That is just a nightmare. The few lefties that the Red Sox have kind of hit are flamethrower types. So I don't even want to talk about it. I think they're going to lose on Monday. I think they'll beat Marquez. He kind of plays into what they do well. Ground ball guy, right-handed. So I like that. And then game 3, Quantrill's, he's all right. But just being in Colorado takes a lot out of guys. Thank God they have an off day after that series. So
yeah.
I'm going Red
Someone
Sox win. I'm going Red Sox win 1 out of 3. Sorry, everybody.
Someone had to do it. If we all picked the series win, then we weren't just weren't being realistic. Joe, are you gonna join Sammy? Or are you gonna join us? You're not picking a sweep, are you?
No, I'm not going to do a sweep, but I do think the ball is going to travel well, so they're going to win 2 out of 3, and same sequence as you, Gordo. I like Houck when he starts. I don't like the bullpen game that they're going to release. But the third one, as you guys said about Cal Quantrill, I don't really believe in him too much, so I think they win that one.
Tough for the pitchers the Sox have doing it in Colorado. I thought it was kind of smart not throwing Houck against the Dodgers because they just kind of saw him. Shohei just took him to the moon. I know they made that decision beforehand, but good to give him a little bit of extra rest too. So, okay, we got a couple of 2 out of 3s and a 1 out of 3. I think that's about right. I feel nervous with my 2 out of 3. So no one picking a sweep is not surprising. Pat, moving on to the next segment. What do we got?
Crystal bomb.
Joe.
We got 2 of us
Bomb it.
getting points.
Bomb it.
Yes, bomb it. Everyone
Bomb
says.
it.
2 of us got points this week, thanks to 2 guys who hit 2 home runs. I correctly predicted Jarren Duran. Gordo correctly predicted Tyler O'Neill. Pat went with Connor Wong. Sammy went with Rafi Devers. So the standings are Gordo with 14 in the lead. Sammy second with 12. Pat third with 7. Me in last with 3.
Pat, you want to pick the order?
I was thinking. Joe, why don't you go first?
Ooh, okay. Let's see. I went with Duran. I'm gonna use my Devers pick in this one. I think the ball is gonna fly in Colorado, so I'll go with Rafi.
I like it. Sammy?
I will ride the hot bat. I'll go with Tyler O'Neill.
I like it. Gordo?
I was going to use my Devers pick, but I will save that for the Yankees. I'll go with Jarren Duran. I'll ride the other hot bat.
Now, I'm going to go David Hamilton.
Ooh.
I don't hate that pick, by the way.
I'm going with Hamilton.
This would be the series that like all the obscure guys, like the non-Duran, Devers, and O'Neill picks, would thrive.
That was kind of my thought process. Just pick somebody who I don't think is going to hit a home run.
So we don't have time for a full guys being dudes, but did you guys pick guys? Can we just like rattle them off who we're gonna pick? Because the Rockies aren't coming back this year.
Oh yeah, I'll start us off. I feel like I haven't started us off yet. I'm going Alan Embry, and if you're in my advanced age group of people who are almost 30, you will remember him for being on the 2004 team. Was he out? I think he got the last out of the ALCS.
You did.
So, yeah, part of a historic team. Alan Embry, decent reliever, lefty.
Shouts. I was going to go with Josh Rutledge. Weird career. Also, he was in Boston recently. I think he was at the Noah Khan concert.
Why do you know that? Why do you know that?
So our Play Tessie account follows Laura Rutledge, and they're married. And when I was like doing something on the Play Tessie account, and I saw them at the concert.
That's wild that you just pulled that out.
Yeah. So
Josh Rutledge.
Yeah, Josh Rutledge, acquired for Shane Victorino, and then left the Red Sox, went to the Rockies, and then the Red Sox later drafted him in the Rule 5 draft. So I thought that was It's weird that they drafted a guy in the Rule 5 that they'd already had on their team. But all right, Pat, finish us off. What do we got?
Aaron Cook.
How many
Life
pitches were in
along.
his complete game? What was
I
that?
know why you picked him, Pat. You picked him because he's a ginger, and you like that.
I'm on a big ginger kick.
Didn't he throw like an 80-something pitch complete game for the Red Sox?
He might have. I think he made 9 starts here, one of which was a complete game. Or no, he made 18 starts. He was here longer than I thought.
Didn't he wear a weird jersey number? I can't remember his jersey. I think it was either like 0 or it was 28.
He wore
Dude!
35 on the Red Sox.
This
28 with the
motherfucker,
Rockies.
this motherfucker threw 2 complete games with fewer than 80 pitches.
On the Red Sox?
No, in his career.
Oh.
I got to figure out 070 through a 74 pitch complete game against a team, something with the Rockies. So it wasn't us. No, neither of those games was with the Red Sox. So wow, this guy was just the king of just no pitch complete games.
Yeah, Aaron Cook. I think he made an All-Star team one time. Yeah,
I
one
love
time
that.
All-Star.
I love that we're ending our episode on Aaron Cook. That is
Yeah,
exactly.
he made an All-Star game, but he also gave up the most hits in Major League Baseball that year. Beast. He does it all.
36 hits.
He gave up 236. Can you imagine giving up that? But he's an all-star. He had a 3.96 ERA for the Rockies.
10.1 hits per 9.
Oh my God.
Not even whip. Hits per 9. His whip was 1.3.
All-star.
I
Can't
believe
take it
it
away.
was 81 pitches, his complete game with the Red Sox.
Dude, Aaron Cook fans are going to go nuts for this episode.
There's so many.
I've just
of them.
been, by the way, this tweet I have asking people if they want Jordan Lyles and Ty France. I just keep adding names to it. So now I have, how about Rich Hill? How about Josh Rutledge? And I'm going to add, what about Aaron Cook?
That's fantastic. Well, thank you for tuning in to our 100th episode. This is the beauty of this show. The beauty of this podcast is even when we go into an episode pissed off and God, it's just that series, just so much gut-wrenching action in that series that just killed me and all of us. But at the end of the podcast, I always end up feeling better than I did. Always coming out with a level head, always coming out understanding that the series doesn't define the season and doesn't need to define the deadline, but they do have to figure it out against the Rockies. Obviously, like a sweep would be big, but God, just get 2. Just get 2. But again, thank you to everyone who submitted DMs. We really appreciate you guys interacting. Before you tune into something else or get on with your day or whatever, hit the subscribe button. We'll have another episode for you guys coming tomorrow, episode 101. So we appreciate you guys tuning in for this one. Subscribe, rate 5 stars. Check it out on YouTube, everything. At Play Tessie on all the socials. Till next time, till 101. Thanks for tuning in. Peace.